If you knew what I knew, you could get 10 million views a video and you could get 10 million subscribers no matter where you are right now within 6 months.
Every single video was an inflection point. Every single video, I was pushing the boundaries in some way. I was spending the last dime in my bank account, or I was just exerting the last brain cell I had left in my brain before I passed out over the course of a month to make the videos as good as possible.
It wasn't like it was work for me grinding YouTube for those 10 years or whatever where no one was really watching it. It's just like kind of who I am.
You make what people want to watch, you make great content, the algorithm rewards it very well right now. And so as we make our content better and better, we just get rewarded with more views. And so we just keep pushing and like, we're just, no matter what, there's always a way to be better. There is always a way to be better. And so we're just never gonna stop making them better.
Which is why I give the advice to new creators, make 100 videos, improve something every time. That's what I was doing. Every video, I was trying to improve something new and just threw everything I had.
I did this as well. I was like, I want 10 million subscribers. I want 100 million. I want this. But in reality, those are kind of just vanity metrics. And what you want is you want to just consistently improve making better videos. And as long as your videos over time are getting better, it's very hard for more people not to watch them and for the people who were watching before to keep watching. Because it's not even just what they used to watch. It gets better. You know what I mean?
Part of growing really fast is you just have to fail a ton. If you don't want to innovate and adapt, then you're just not gonna fail a bunch. And so that's how you can make things less stressful, but then you're not gonna, do as well in the long run. So I'm a big believer in like, we move fast, we fail a ton, and we learn from the failures and just fix them. But that creates a lot of problems, you know what I mean? And those problems are usually very stressful, but in the end, once you fix them and move on to the other side, obviously the company is much more successful because of it.
Most of the world doesn't speak English. And so if you make content in English, most of the world can't watch your videos. The second you do videos in every language, your reach literally like 5 to 6x's your potential reach. Our Espanol channel, if you just look at MrBeast Espanol, was doing over 20 million views a video. Some of the videos were getting 100 million views. Our Portuguese channel was doing 5 to 10 million views a video. French was doing millions of views a video. And so you can imagine if you take 12 channels like those, and instead of doing them all separate, you combine them on one, it supercharges the heck out of the videos. So, I mean, put 2 and 2 together, it's added a lot of views per video for us. It's much easier just to run one channel than 12 because you have to make 12 different thumbnails. You have to, just reply to comments on 12, upload on 12. It's just so much easier to have it all in one central place. And on top of that, it's a lot simpler for the fans.
It's really just whatever you're passionate about. It's pretty crazy. Like if you make good videos that are at least slightly better than whatever people are making, in that type of content, like YouTube does a very good job of serving it up to the viewer.
It is simply knowledge. And the second you accept that it is knowledge and you start your, for me, 10,000 day journey of learning, for you, whatever it is, if you want to be less hardcore, and like actually figuring out, what makes a good video? What does my audience want? How can I elevate? And then you take that knowledge and you just assume that I will never understand what the perfect video is. And every single day, I just need to be devoted to learning as much as possible and improving as much as possible. And I got to improve every video as much as I can.
Yeah, I just highly advise you get really addicted to just improving your product, which for everyone here is videos, and just accept it's like, ideally, it's a 10-year journey. And then 10 years from now, you're probably gonna be making phenomenal content compared to where you are now.
If we're talking specifically about content, there's usually like 3 pillars. Like you have to understand really well what does well on YouTube. You have to understand how to build a business and like actually hire people and build a production team and you build these sets. And then you also just have to be like a good personality, be good on camera, be entertaining. These are all 3 things that are very hard to master. Most people do like one of those pillars, and like I feel like we're one of the few channels that has all 3. Like we understand what the platform wants, we understand what people want, we have good content on camera that's entertaining, plus like the production, everything's very high. And so couple that with, I don't care, I'll reinvest everything. I think this year we'll spend like $120 million on our videos, just on the YouTube videos. And like, no one else would do that. You know what I mean? Like if they were in my shoes, they'd be like, okay, we'll spend 20 million and pocket 100 million. And then we just have some of the best people in the world here. Like, some of our top people, obviously if they worked on any other YouTube channel, like they would probably 10x the views overnight.
Like, and the pendulum, focus more on content than you do clickbait, but don't ever let it swing too far because it still does matter.
My goal is just to make it where people, when they look at it, instantly understand what it is. I don't really worry about realism or anything. It's just like, because like we do these crazy things, and like the worst thing that could happen is like I upload the video and people look at the thumbnail and like I don't get credit for the wild big spectacles we do.
We obviously A/B tested 3 formats and we found the one that worked, and then we tested a couple of different boats.
I think that's interesting that it's like big variations are the first test, and then when you have a winner, take that variation and make small detail tweaks.
Exactly, and test, and then wait a month and test a couple more and that kind of stuff. If it's like me laying in sand here, we might potentially lay a bunch of sand on the ground and then put a up high camera and film me just laying in the sand. If I had to like actually go to the place to shoot them all, I'd be shooting thumbnails like 5 hours every single day. It's like nice to be able to lay on the beach in a desert island without having to go there.
Yeah.
You want to see your thumbnail smaller because a lot of us have a bad habit of looking at it on a computer screen, and then when it's smaller on a phone, things you thought were visible aren't as visible. Like hypothetically, items in the shelf further back, you know, on a phone wouldn't be visible, whereas on a TV where the thumbnail's a little bit bigger, it is. So it's good to just basically look at it in every format and make sure it's clickable no matter where it is.
We swapped it out for this split screen thumbnail, which we had never done before, but I do occasionally see on view stats other channels doing really good with the split screen thumbnail. So it's like, screw it, let's try it. And then we put one on Plane Ticket, and yeah, I mean, that thing went off. I think it got an extra like 30 or 40 million views because we, you know, swapped the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can have big effects sometimes.
There is thumbnails in short form, not when you're on the homepage, but when you're swiping. And the thumbnail is the first frame. It is. It's very hard to fit tons of people. And so sometimes it is easier to remove me from the frame so you can be more focused on one person and get like a better reaction. It's just same reason why some thumbnails,
really cool.
It's not me and people, it's just me. It's easier to focus on one person. And so like I try to think of the first frame as the thumbnail.
So those first 5 seconds, that hook is now even more important than it ever used to be.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, before it was important because you had to convince people to watch.
Yeah.
Now you have to convince people to click and watch at the same time.
Sometimes it autoplays so quickly you don't even see the thumbnail. So you also have to think of the first couple of seconds as the thumbnail as well. So yes, it's usually like, is it a good idea that we can make a 15-minute video on? Is it a good title and thumbnail? And then obviously, can the first 5 seconds, you know, would that be good enough where they'd click without reading the title or anything, just seeing that on their phone? All that combined is how you give your video the best chance of doing well.
A big problem with my YouTube videos is people just don't think they're real. And so like, I have to like show so much at the start, and I have to like, you know, I have like this 10-second window to convince someone, I did this. I swear to God, I did it. I swear, promise. I promise, here's proof. I did it. You have to convince them of all of it and then get permission to slow down.
So before you film a video, what is the thumbnail? What is the video? And then what's the first 5 seconds? And then what's the first 30 seconds? By the first 5 seconds is like, goes with the thumbnail.
Because it's possible that people open YouTube and
They don't see it.
They don't
Especially
even see the
for
thumbnail.
us, because like for so many people I've watched hundreds of our videos, when I upload, I am first on your homepage. So like you just literally don't even see the thumbnail because it autoplays so quickly. So like the thumbnail is irrelevant. I have to like visually convince you to click on the video. I can't just go grab someone from traditional and go teach me storytelling, because they'll just be like, do this 3-act structure. And I'm like, okay. And I read books and I study and I'm like, that just doesn't work. And they're like, no, it does work. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't. You just don't get YouTube. Like, you can't just break a video into 3 acts. Like, that's just not, I mean, sure, maybe you could, but it's just not like, that's not optimal, and things are so dynamic and changing. But I'll just take what I think would work and I'll just like throw it in this pot, and I think like, oh, I like this kind of thing. And oh, I learned that from that book, and I'll stir it. Oh, that's a 10 out of 10. Okay, maybe we do that. Okay, that's like a 5 out of 10. We didn't bomb. And then, you know, and then eventually you get like 1 through 100 and stuff like that.
What people really want, which is what we're moving towards now more than ever, is like they want compelling stories. They want to get attached to the characters. They want to feel things that are intrinsic to a human, whether it be loved or wealth or power, these things. Like there's a lot, like if you want to get 100 million views, there are just certain things that every human feels and like applies to them all. They're a little basic, but you know, they want to feel those feelings, watch a good story, more than they want to see you just spend money.
That's one of the biggest competitive advantages we had when filming Beast Games, is we put in the effort to set up all this infrastructure where we could actually capture it and just tell the story how it is, instead of having to use story producers to put words in people's mouths. But it's a nightmare, man. Like I had over 150 people editing that. I mean, we were combing through unfathomable amounts of footage, but it's great because that's why we were able to tell what actually happened, why it feels different, because we were recording nonstop 24/7.
Step 1 is like taking the behemoth of whatever video we film. We basically call it like selects, cutting down like 40,000 hours into like, here's the like 5 hours you're gonna use, and then here's like 30 hours of content you can pull from. And then, you know, the actual team of editors that will go through, I'll be pulled in and just look at it with them, and you know, we'll figure out what is the story, what do we think the intro should be, what would be the outro, and stuff like that.
When you make space for character building, potentially people click off.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
exactly. I was worried about that before.
I'm not connected to that person. And in that video, I think you successfully pulled that off, where one of the final contestants, it's his daughter's birthday.
I know.
And she comes in and like, he's emotional. And that was one of the first times where I was like, whoa.
We had a guy who was in a cube for like 7 days. It was his daughter's birthday. And so we brought his daughter in. It hit hard. Yeah. That video we tested a lot. We tested a little more complex challenges, but we also tested like, screw it. Like people say they want better stories from us. let's do it. And again, that's where I threw all my like things I normally worry about out the window there. I was like, simplicity. I was like, screw it, we'll be a little complex, you know? And then on the other end, it's like, I'm very, you know, fast. It's like, let's slow it down. Let's build some characters.
Yeah.
That's what people say they want. And they work.
How have you slowed it down without making it boring?
A lot of it is you get them connected to people, so they're like interested in that person. Like if I just threw a random person on the screen and they talked for 12 seconds, you're not going to care. The retention will just nosedive. But 42, you know, when we were filming that video, we noticed he was very outgoing and he was very cool. Like he had a deep voice and he talked a lot.
Age 42.
Yeah, age 42. Yeah, in the ages 1 through 100 video, he talked a lot. And so we, you know, made sure to like always have a camera on him because he was really crushing. So we built him up throughout the video because we had a lot of footage. I think there's one scene that we didn't really cut for 12 seconds, but because you were invested in age 42 at that point, you're invested in the person age 42 was talking, it worked. Like retention was flat because you're like, ooh, I care about this dialogue. Yeah. But if that was the first time you saw him, you wouldn't care.
There are videos where storytelling's great, like the 1 through 100, where you have a ton of contestants and you build them up and blah, blah. And you know, and so then when people win, you're like, oh my gosh, like I care about this person. This is awesome. Like I love this feeling. And then there's videos like the $1 versus $1 billion boat. It's about my experience on these boats, but ultimately it's like about these boats. Like that's what they're watching. How cool, what's the difference?
It's our experience of it.
Yeah, but the story is also like, what is the difference between all these boats? Just figuring out what kind of story applies to what kind of content you're making is a lot harder than it sounds. In the previous versus videos, like one thing we learned is like, I would just have someone show me around and they would just like, be like, oh, this is what's in this hotel room. This is what comes here. But typically, me and the boys aren't as, you know, out there when we're around random people. These people are typically lower energy and it's a little boring. And they're just like, okay, next to your bed is a pillow or this thing, a little bit of chocolate. And you're like, okay. It doesn't make the best content. So what we do now, like on yachts, is we don't have someone show us around. I just unleash the boys. Cool. I just clear the area. And I'm like, boys, go be stupid. I'm like, do what you want. I let them go wild and like discover things. And instead of someone going, you know, press this button and this comes down and it's lame, we press a button and we're like, oh, ooh. You know, and it's cool. That's stuff you learn by doing the same content over and over. But it's also hard because like you also got to be original and mix things up. And if you do the same stuff over and over again, you'll eventually fall off. So that's like the constant tug and pull for most people.
You should always be learning about things all over the world in different areas and just random things constantly, so you can pull from that for creativity and like, you know, to make content, especially if the goals, you know, if you know original content is going to do better, then one way to make original content is just to know a lot of random things you can pull from. Back in the day, I was a lot of just jamming things in my brain, flipping through dictionaries, learning words, like random word generators, just like watching random content, like really trying to shove as much random knowledge in my head as possible, and then doing an idea session and trying to pull from that. And that worked really well, but it's very inefficient.
What do you think makes a video good? Just generally, like you can watch it and you just know it when you see it.
It's the best piece of content we possibly can make. I mean,
from watching you give notes last night, I think it's a mix of, am I entertained? Like, can I not look away?
Yeah, that's the core thing.
And then second, does this make sense? If we go to a new location, does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the video.
If there's a new challenge, a new something, a new this, a new that, whatever, like at every step of the way, does it make sense? Can people follow it?
Yeah, I mean, those are just the core foundations, and then you build on top of it. Like we said before, it just depends. You know, like 1 through 100, it's like, is the storytelling out of this world? Or is the set out of this world? Are me and the boys being funny? Are the challenges freaking awesome? Are they executed properly? Is the pacing good? You know, the duration of it, all that, you know, these are all things you can just like, the little levers you can pull to like make it exponentially better. You know?
This is too fast. This is basically TV. And you got to find like that sweet spot in the middle. And before we were here, I think we're kind of here. We still have a little bit more to go on the storytelling side, which is what I'm excited about. You can get views on a video, but people can feel unsatisfied and then not click the next one and eventually churn them out. The reason why 100 million people keep coming back every video is because we constantly try to prioritize what they want and what makes them happy. And so this is where it's hard. This is the thing that I struggle the most with training people on, and which is why I do it, is it's just like, you kind of just have to be really in the trenches with your community. You have to read a lot about what they say online and just talk to a lot of them, and you can kind of just tell.
And viewership's very exponential. It's way easier to get 50 million views on one video than it is to get 1 million views on 50 videos.
If you do a series long enough, it's like exciting, then it's not really exciting. And then if you keep doing it, it becomes kind of lame and people churn out. I try to kind of stop like here before it loses excitement. So I try to stop series early before people have to tell me to stop them. Because if not, then you just become known for that. So I like to always keep things fresh and keep changing it up.
The thing is, like, to go viral, you have to do something that's never been done before. I've told this story before of like you know, if you're driving down the road and you see a cow, who cares? It's a cow. But if you're driving down the road and you see a purple cow, you're like, you've never seen that before, and it's something you weren't expecting. You're gonna go, holy shit, and you're gonna go tell your friends about it. You're gonna remember that. You'll probably even think about it randomly once every couple of years. Why the f was there a purple cow? And it's like, it's the same thing. You can apply that same like analogy to ideas. Like when you're scrolling through social media to find a video to watch, there's things that, you know, have been done before, you've seen. It's, you know, roughly similar to stuff before. You're just gonna scroll past it. You'll never think about it again. Just like you'll never think about a cow on the side of the road. And then there are ideas that are like the purple cow idea, which is what I try to do, which are things that make you go, what the f? I've never seen that. I have to click this, or I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight because like, why is this video? No way they did this.